popcorn. We are two ninjas spoiling movies. Yeah. And Brandon Collins, that's me. It's just a brand for your movie needs. Medium popcorn. Woo! You haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it. Who's the master? Well, that's your warning. And if you get pissed, it's all your fault.
I am the Messiah, Eddie Collins, and here to join me is my apostle.
I'm not
apostle. Speak.
I'm not doing this with you, Brandon. I'm not doing this with you, guys. This is Justin Brown. Whatever that's coming.
He is my apostle.
No, I am not his apostle.
Justin's my apostle. I am the Messiah.
Get hit in the mouth. How dare he?
I am the movie podcast Messiah. I am here to grant you vision and direction as to whether or not you should see the Book of Clarence, which is Jemez Samuel's follow-up to The Harder They Fall, which is a movie that Justin and I, we both loved dearly. But surprisingly, it took me a while to get to this. This came out in October 2023 last year, and it was widely released in January 2024, and it just came and went. I mean, I can kind of tell why. I actually think like the first act into middle of the second act, pretty fucking funny. Like it was a different kind of humor than I was expecting, given how grounded the Harder They Fall was. And I actually like enjoyed like kind of the comedic beats and like the weird quirkiness of it. Like when what's his name? RJ Seiler and LaKeith Stanfield, their characters are leaving after talking to Jeremiah, who they they owe money to. Yeah. And then the one dude's like, get out. He's like, we were literally leaving. Like they're like, it's so unnecessary to yell at. Like stuff like that, which the things that are funny about that stuff is that like I've had experiences like that where I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like that's such a weird thing to do.
It's like you just have to impose, huh? That's what you want to do. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So we open. Okay. I guess we should. The story is told in 3 different books. The first is the 13th Apostle. Second is the New Messiah, and the last is the Crucifixion. And we open where Clarence, who's played by LaKeith Stanfield, he is crucified alongside a dude who's at the very forefront of all the people getting crucified, who was played by Benedict Cumberbatch, and White Jesus, basically. Which we later find out that's how they played it. Immediately knew that was Benedict Cumberbatch. He was playing the homeless dude, basically in blackface. I thought, well, that's Benedict Cumberbatch. It's weird that he was open to doing that because that's a bit risque. But
here for this film,
yeah, I mean, they're just supposed to be like he's so dirty that he looks black. But you're like, sure, okay. It must have been wild for him as a white British dude to be on set with predominantly all black cast, at least. I'm sure Mr. Samuel uses a predominantly black crew as well, and then to be basically in blackface for quite a few of your scenes, that must have been really weird.
Time he's Doctor Strange, so he's just probably on and off set making little.
I mean, he's got to have like, if he is an actor, right, and he really digs into his characters, he's got to be all over the place. Like, I imagine people like him, like because he played a slave master in 12 Years a Slave. Like people like him. Leonardo DiCaprio, they must go fucking crazy in their minds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, they're not necessarily method actors.
True. Yeah, they're not Daniel Day-Lewis where he's like, I'm playing it. Good thing he never played a slave owner because that would have been rough. Imagine the black actors he buys, like he pays to play slaves for him so he can get in the mindset.
Oh my god!
Oh my god! That's a fucking movie.
Yeah, that's pretty hilarious. That's hilarious.
Folks, I'm copywriting this idea. Don't do anything with it. It'll never get made. That would be so controversial. But
yeah, it would be nuts. It would be fucking nuts. It's just like, yeah, I'm so into my role that I've lived under. I'm living under a bridge right now. I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? It's just nuts. The whole method acting thing is just like, I get it, but also at the same time, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I will say, LaKeith Stanfield is one of the most interesting actors I think working in Hollywood today.
Yeah,
because he always makes very interesting choices, whether like in regards to the movies that he does and the performances he gives, right? And I think he's very good at really balancing comedy and drama. I mean, this is like on full display in Atlanta. Like, folks, if you haven't seen the series finale of Atlanta, like, it's one of the best LaKeith Stanfield performances I think he'll ever give in his career. It's so fucking good and so many different levels and layers, both comedically and dramatic, that he's bringing to the table. This movie, I think for me, where it failed LaKeith was that this, in a way, you could say it's building up to the third act, but I think the third act's a completely different movie.
Yeah,
I think except for him walking on water, it's a completely different fucking movie tonally. It gets really in the weeds with like religious overtones and themes and stuff. Like, it's really deep into that shit. And so for me, like as a person that's not very religious, almost atheist, I was kind of like, I won't say I was turned off by it, but I definitely disconnected.
Yeah.
Except for LaKeith's incredible acting when he does, because he's basically told, if you don't walk on water, you're gonna get killed.
Well,
right?
no, he's gonna get killed either way.
Exactly, but like, it's more definitive that you're going to get killed, like if you don't walk on water. And when he does walk on water, the acting in that scene, both from LaKeith and I would say RJ Seiler and other people, I thought that was like amazing. I was like, why? It's such that the third act falls apart around that incredible scene, because I actually thought it was really well executed, and like the belief that pops up in Clarence's face after being such a disbeliever and like, capitalizing on people's ignorance and stuff like that, I thought was incredible. And I think you only get that if you have it at like LaKeith. But at the same time, I think that, I don't know, it might just be a black. I don't know. I would love to hear other people talk about their, like, how they respond to LaKeith Stanfield as an actor. I know personally he's done some weird shit that's like made people on him, but
feet.
Yeah, but also he was on what was that old app where like you got on the boards and stuff?
Yeah, the moaning app thing.
Yeah.
I mean the moaning room or something like that. He was being weird.
I don't know, it was the moaning room, but
oh, you didn't hear about that?
I heard about the anti-Jewish stuff.
No,
it's popped up.
There was also like, one of these rooms or whatever where it was like people are moaning in there, or like moaning like they're having sex, and he was in there and he was just going nuts with it.
Well, I can see him doing that as a troll, but maybe that's a kink too.
But like people, I don't know. I guess people were felt a little bit unsettled by it.
What's that app called? It's not called Roundhouse. Shit. It's like where everyone got in the rooms. Clubhouse. That's what it was.
It's not really anymore. I know people still use it.
I still hear it pop up here and there, like especially like with cryptocurrency. That's where I hear about it a lot. But I almost wonder, does LaKeith have an accessible issue? And what I mean by that is, does he have he's a talented actor, but I wonder if LaKeith has that universal likability that a leading man needs to have, because this is one of several leading roles that LaKeith has had that just haven't done well. And it's like, not for active trying. I mean, The Photograph, he was the second lead with Issa Rae. That movie did okay. The Haunted Mansion, I mean, that movie, to be honest, kind of sucked. But I thought he was fairly solid in it with what he was given, right? And so I'm like, is it the movies that he's picking, or is it that he has the accessibility problem? Because I know people love him from Atlanta. I don't know. It's just something like, I would love to hear some thoughts from our fans and, social media, Media MP podcast, or send us a voicemail, speakpipe.com/media popcorn. What do you think of LaKeith Stanfield's career thus far? What do you think is the reason why he hasn't had the biggest box office draw? Because actually the Silver Surfer, when what's her name from Ozark got cast, LaKeith, I believe, either tweeted or he Instagram comment and said, "Damn, I thought it was me." And that was the rumor I heard for a long time, is that LaKeith was going to be the Silver Surfer. And so I don't know, maybe Disney soured on him, or I don't know, man. I wonder. It makes you wonder, right? It makes you wonder, like, is he maybe difficult to work with? Is there other stuff happening? Like, what is it about LaKeith that's not clicking? Because I've been like a fan of this kid ever since Short Term 12. And that's an indie movie with him, Brie Larson, Rami Malek. That was like mad low budget.
Yeah,
And he has like a very small role in it, but he's made the most out of all the screen time he got.
that's true. It's true. And like you said, there could be some, behind the scenes stuff that we don't know about, which is kind of holding him back. And unfortunately, guys, it could be any little thing. And like, you talk about the Jonathan Major stuff and everything. I'm not saying that's a little thing, but I'm saying this in the sense of like, you don't have as a black actor in the business, you don't have an opportunity to fuck up and think that you're going to come back from it. We don't necessarily get that kind of grace. And it could be something in the sense of like, hey, LaKeith will, fuck some producer's, girlfriend or some shit like that, because that part of the business also affects every other part of it. So you never know. And it sucks, but like that's a part of it.
Yeah, it's just really odd. I mean, and this cast was great. I mean, like you had RJ Seiler, who plays Elijah, Clarence's best friend. You have Omar Sy, who's on Lupone, who plays a warrior named Barbas, who literally is who basically is invincible because this nigga gets speared 3 times and just keeps going.
Well,
that was wild.
Oh my God. What's the fucking movie with fucking Brad Pitt?
Oh, shit. Troy.
Yeah, Troy. It's basically they kind of took some of the lore from that character.
Yeah, he was like wrong ankle because they got his right ankle. Or his right heel or something like that. Yeah.
Heel. I gotta look up that character. For some reason now it's gonna bother me. Who did Brad Pitt play? Achilles. Yeah. So
Achilles heel. Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of adopted the Achilles thing. I was like, okay, that's kind of weird, but okay.
Yeah.
Like,
they had Tiana Taylor play Mary Magdalene, who Elijah's in love with. I mean, Tiana Taylor, she acts crazy as fuck, but Lord Almighty, she's a baddie.
Mm-hmm.
She is a baddie. She seemed crazy, but I kind of like crazy.
Yeah. She seems like she may cut you in bed.
Oh yeah, she's definitely the kind of she could definitely play a sex vixen that fucks a dude and then like gets him to like give her all his money. Yeah. Like he's living in a Motel 6 after he's done, like she's done with him, and he can't pay the rate. You know what I mean? Like it's that rough. That's not funny.
But he signs up for that. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
he got exactly what he wanted. He got exactly what he needed.
Yep. Shout out to Chase Dillon, by the way, who's the kid that played Cabbage, the weird gypsy character that was beating up Elijah and Clarence, because he was in the Underground Railroad, Haunted Mansion. Like he's just a solid young actor just doing his thing out here. And I just want to shout him out. Underground Railroad, though, his character is fucking wild because he's basically like a black tracker. Like he's a slave tracker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like he works with the Joe Egerton, I think is the actor's name, and basically their job is to find runaway slaves. I mean, it's really twisted.
It was a job. That was a job.
Yeah. So basically, Clarence, we open with Clarence getting in a race with Mary Magdalene. It's actually a pretty well executed race around, like, they have these wagons and horses and shit. Their shit gets all fucked up. They get jacked up by the gypsies. Cabbage pops up and ambushes them, and they get fucked up. And they lose the cart, they lose the horses, and apparently they lose the race, which costs them money. And it's money that they owe to a dude named Jeremiah, right? And basically, we also find out that Clarence is in love with Jeremiah's sister. What's her? Barina.
Yep.
Barinia. Something like that. Jediah is actually the guy's name, not Jeremiah. There's a lot of religious names here, and
I'm trying to.
Justin's not really. He's trying to.
Jediah the Terrible.
Yes, because they
they go, they have these weird, monikers attached to their name. Because that's what I was remembering. Was like, is Jebediah the something?
Yeah, and it's also like he loans shekels and shit and like pro goods and stuff to people, and basically they say that Clarence basically sells people weed, like
Yes.
it's like Luden weed or some shit.
That's the thing. Like, I didn't like that. I just didn't like it.
Well, I mean, I got it though. I was like, Black Romans back in the day, we had to do something to escape this fucking crazy reality.
And what we're doing is selling weed. It's just like, I'm just like,
Well, other goods,
well,
you know.
what other goods could we sell?
Well,
Ah,
he was
you
he was
fuck
selling like bootlegs and stuff.
anything. You could be a blacksmith. Out of all things, they're like, and like you have Elijah. Like half the movie, he's fucking high and he's just smoking. And it's like, yo, we didn't need them to be fucking drug dealers. Like, come on, guys. It's
Yeah,
like
well, I mean,
it's hard enough for black people to get any other fucking roles, and then we go into fucking biblical times and we selling fucking weed. I'm like, come, nigga, please stop.
well, I think isn't this also trying to point out that like Black people basically we're we're the pioneers of everything. Like we're the pioneers of like discovering weed. We're the pioneers of um like not what religion, but like of being the chosen people and like stuff like that. I don't know. I
I
feel
get,
like
but this movie also posits that we also saw the majesticness of fucking white Jesus, and then we gave that to the world, and we made that a thing to the point where we actually whitewashed our own Jesus out and and gave them white Jesus.
yeah, that was odd because that character that was drawing that character important? I feel like that was just a random
um,
person, right?
I forgot who it was.
Yeah, I
It,
wonder if like we missed something significant with that character. Maybe that's why
I'm just like,
it
wait, what?
wasn't Judas, but it's like,
It
well,
wasn't this.
yeah,
But it was somebody that like you'd seen a few times throughout the movie, and they're like, drawing white. And I was like, what's happening right now? But again, like in the third act, kind of fell apart a bit, and it's like, for me, I was kind of like, okay, so then because after he dies, he rises again the third day after the crucifixion and all that kind of stuff. I'm just like, okay, so like this guy dies, and then but Jesus is still walking around, so like that's where the lore of like he came back happened. I'm like, no, that wasn't the case. I'm just like, okay, so what the fuck is going on? So
yeah.
basically the story of Jesus is technically the story of Clarence, and all of this shit actually had happened to Clarence for the most part. But Jesus was out there still doing his thing. Then he brought Clarence back. I'm just like, I don't know. It was a little bit too.
There's a lot. There's a lot going on here. Whereas, Mr. Samuel, his first movie, what that we were familiar with, The Harder They Fall, it's very straightforward. It's a revenge western. You know exactly what it is. Versus this one, once we got to the Final Supper, I don't want to call it homage, but like visualization. I was just like, okay, now this is getting to be a lot. Like this is a lot because we're not even focusing on Clarence and Elijah. We're focusing on the bigger world implications of these actions and how Jesus responded to things and how he fits into how his history was scrubbed and whitewashed, and it just became a lot. And also, no offense to Nicholas Pinnock who played Jesus, but his screen presence wasn't doing anything for me. I
Yeah.
thought he was very flat as Jesus.
Yeah.
You have all this visual buildup and tension before we even see his face as Jesus. Like when he's walking around with his apostles, one of them is actually LaKeith's, Clarence's twin brother, Thomas. And they had a falling out because when their mom was sick, Thomas basically abandoned them to follow Jesus.
Yeah.
And Clarence has always been like always questioned religion, and that made him even more resolute in being like anti-religious, which is always cause friction and stuff like that between them. But yeah, I just didn't buy Mr. Pinocchio as Jesus. I was wondering what other characters they could have gotten to play him, but you know, it is what it is. But I did like when Clarence goes to get baptized because he basically realizes he's like, okay, I have knowledge that I can use to basically trick people into thinking I'm the Messiah. But in order for me to do this, where I'm not immediately going to hell, is I need to get baptized and also to get people to buy into my conversion as a religious man.
So it's actually not necessarily that.
Okay.
So I think, well, I let me not say it's not necessarily that because that's your interpretation of it. But I think what he was going for is like, okay, if I get baptized, and if Jebediah the Terrible believes in this Jesus guy, or a lot of people believe in him as the Messiah. If I get baptized and now I'm a Christian, they may think twice about doing all this crazy stuff to me, like torture and things like that, because how will that look? Where like you're now persecuting a Christian person, because people are going to have questions. It's like, so it's basically he's kind of playing, a gotcha card. It's like if you do that, then what are people going to say about it?
Got it.
It's
that
like,
makes sense. Yeah.
I converted over to Christianity, and here you are, doing this. Is like, people ain't gonna be happy about that. You may want to think twice.
Don't think twice. Just think once. I mean, Clarence doesn't really. Uh, he's definitely like he puts himself in really tough spots.
Yeah,
like he seems smart, but then he does really irresponsible things. I mean, he does try to make up for it, like by buying back buying the freedom of the slaves who were with the dude. That's how he gets Omar Sy's character Barabbas, because he makes a deal with the slaver. What is it? Barabbas?
Barabbas. It's Barabbas. That's a biblical name. Barabbas.
Barabbas. Okay, that's better.
Bars.
I did laugh really hard at David Aiello's John the Baptist scene when he kept slapping Clarence. He was like, and then Clarence compared himself to Jesus, and then he got slapped again.
He tries to basically drown him.
And then like Elijah's like, he's been cleaned. Okay, you can stop cleaning him now. I mean, because everyone knows that Clarence, one, he doesn't believe in religion, and two, that what did you say?
Swindler.
Yeah, like no one buys this. That's why he has to go out of Dodge to pitching his sermons and shit. He's got his whole crew. He's got Elijah in on it. He's got the kid from Stranger Things, Caleb McLaughlin's character as Dirty Zeke, which is terrible because he did look rough, but goddamn. And then eventually he gets Barabbas. Barabbas in on it.
Shut up. Like, what are you doing, Brandon? Barabbas.
Oh, folks. Listen, I'm sorry. I'm not the best at names. Y'all know this about me.
But you know what? I'll give you an A for trying, though, because if there's something I can't say, I'm gonna be like, I ain't gonna do that to myself. I assure you that you're putting yourself out there, and you're willing to be wrong.
Yeah. That scene with John the Baptist, though, does reiterate the theme of Clarence's journey and what he wants, which is he wants to prove that he's not a nobody, because everyone his brother Thomas says like you're a nobody. I mean, at one point Thomas tells Clarence, he said, you were destined for nothing but failure, which I'm like,
damn,
bro, I wouldn't take that from my worst enemy. I'm not going to take it from my brother, my twin brother.
We got to fight.
Mm-hmm.
We got to fight. You talking on me like that? We got to
fight. I did laugh really hard. God damn it. I'm gonna tear up again laughing trying to say this name. Barabbas. Barabbas? Wait, which one is it?
Barabbas.
I'm not doing well right now.
I can tell.
Barabbas, when Clarence is like, I'm gonna be a Messiah. Barabbas is like, what, nigga? Like, it's just,
that's not a good idea.
I did write down the soundtrack is good. The soundtrack was really fucking good.
Yeah, the soundtrack was good.
Like Mr. Samuel puts together a really good soundtrack. Yeah. There's like a
really nice.
Well, I mean, I think it helps to have Jay-Z as a producer. I think he helps you find, like, because he has probably so many producers and music, inclined people that he could probably get a lot of good recommendations to the movie once it's like, finalized and locked in and stuff like that. But even then, folks, the music and for me, I think the first act is incredibly strong. Second act, it starts waning a bit, like, especially when we get more into like the Jesus and like Judas relationship, because Judas is also like, obviously doing some Judas shit on the side, played by Michael Ward, who's got a very interesting look. Apparently it's on that popular Netflix show Top Boy, which I haven't seen, but it's on the list. But yeah, he was really interesting. But the character Judas was so insane. And for me, like, I'm just not, like I said, I'm not religious enough to know kind of like the full extent of these stories. Obviously, Judas betrayed Jesus, all these things. But I was just kind of like, okay, but why are we? It just didn't feel like it was part of the same movie as Clarence's journey.
Yes.
Until the very end. And that felt, I don't want to say shoehorn in, but it felt forced. Like, obviously, we opened at the beginning with the crucifixion, like them being crucified, but it felt like he maybe started with that. Like, it maybe felt like Mr. Samuel, like, he had that vision and that's what he wrote to, but he didn't have like a deep reason for that leading up to that moment.
Yeah, it's like how are we gonna come around back to that? It was just like, we gonna make it work. Yeah, it really didn't. It wasn't very cohesive. It wasn't a very cohesive in the film, and like the tail end of it, it's really, like you said earlier, it's very religious heavy, and it kind of gets stale very quickly.
Yeah, the third act, even with James McAvoy popping up in like a very, he clearly was having fun on set. He was just very giddy, and it's like, I don't want to kill you, to Clarence. He's like, but my job is to kill all the so-called messiahs.
Yeah. And you just told me that you committed all these, like, you're fraud. Like, that would be correct.
But he's also like, I'll let you go if you tell me where Jesus is.
Yeah.
Basically, he's trying to barter with him, but then like, Clarence tries to like offer him Judas instead, and then that's when James McAvoy's character Pontius Pilate, he's like, "Oh, Judas is already in our pocket." He's like, "We already got him. Like, we don't." And it turns out that Judas actually ratted Jesus out, and so he's gonna get, taken soon.
Part of it is that Judas, him kind of setting Jesus up is because he kind of wanted to force the hand. It's like, yo, we need to be doing more. So he kind of wanted to force the hand to then make Jesus or like, God come and defend so it's like he ain't gonna let him die, type of thing. But then when that didn't happen, then Judas was so, he was just like, I fucked up, and then he actually killed himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if depending on what you've been, what lore you follow, because he killed himself, he was not allowed to go into heaven because he couldn't ask for forgiveness, and he actually became Dracula. No, there is a lore where.
Oh yeah. I think that's in Dracula Untold. Isn't that the story too?
Yeah, so it's in one of those weird Dracula things, yeah. But that's also why he's allergic to silver.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
makes sense.
I mean, it's a little little thing they came up with, and I was like, I'm pretty sure the guy who created the Dracula was like, it's Judas in real life.
Yeah, the whole yeah, like the magical, not magical elements, but like the elements of the powers that Jesus has, that he grants Benedict Cumberbatch's Benjamin, who's the homeless character, the ability to just to produce money out of his hands. So he becomes like a rich dude and like gives his money away and stuff. So he's immediately picked up, but it's just like that's when it started like kind of going off the rails for me, because I'm like, all right, so who am I supposed to focus on? Now we're like adding a bunch of different characters to the mix, and I get it, they all have biblical reasons to be here, so to speak. But it just didn't quite work with the story that I have been investing in until like an hour and 30 minutes at that point. Because this is a little over 2 hours, which it feels it. It definitely feels it, especially in the third act. Like, despite having a dance scene, and you know, a little bit over long scene where they're getting high on using the hookahs and stuff like that, and like that's when he has the idea to become a messiah.
Just floating, literally.
Yeah, it went a little bit too long. And also, okay, when what's her name, Verenia, when she betrays Clarence to bring him out so he can get like get got by her brother, was that intentional or was she forced to do that?
No. It wasn't intentional. Her brother's guys were just following her.
Okay, got it. Yeah, and eventually Jebediah, he becomes a believer. Everyone becomes not a believer in Clarence, but they stand with him, especially when he's carrying the cross to the top of the hill and stuff like that. I mean, that was also a brutal long scene. I mean, I haven't seen the Passion of the Christ, but I know one of our Patreon subscribers said that was felt very Passion of the Christ like in that moment, and I'm like, okay, like that really turned me up. Like I wasn't prepared for that. I probably should have been, given the crucifixion at the beginning, but it's just tough to watch that, especially when you see like a black man getting whipped like that. And like, I watched this right after that whole Trump with the black journalist thing going on and stuff like that. I'm just like, this isn't how I want to spend my night.
This isn't Tuesday night vibes.
Yeah. I'm just glad I didn't have popcorn because that would make it real awkward. That was what was so awkward about working at a movie theater when Passion of the Christ came out. Because we're talking sold out theaters, Justin, and people getting large sodas and popcorns and shit. And I'm like, what? Isn't this from from everything I'm hearing? It's like just 2 hours of this dude getting whipped and beaten and fucking crucified, and people are just like, yum yum yum, buttery goodness. Like, America's fucked up.
That man may be dying, but I sure am hungry.
It's just so wild to me. I'm like,
my Jesus.
And especially the people that got nachos and hot dogs and shit. I'm like, oh, you don't give a fuck.
I got a hot dog at a movie theater recently, and immediately I asked myself, what the fuck are you doing?
They're not terrible as long as they're not like there forever.
No, but they're also like $7. Like, what the fuck am I doing? Why?
Yeah. They're so expensive now. It's insane. Back in the day, man, that stuff used to be like $3.50.
Yeah, $2-3. Now it's like $7.50. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. How dare they? How dare they?
That's true. How dare they? For real. It's like, it is robbery. I mean, because especially now, because I can't trust these lazy people now. And I'm not saying all concession stand people are lazy, but when I was working concessions, I didn't have a cell phone to distract me. So I actually cared about my job. Like, I actually like cared about the customers and talking to people and stuff like that. And these people, like, not only do they not care about customer service, they barely can get your order right. And you're like, what's happening?
It's just like, all right, so I got a hot dog. Is that like a hot dog comes with fries for $7.50 or something like that? It's just a hot dog.
Oh, yeah. Also, I don't trust half of these niggas with fryers.
That kind of money.
What about having that kind of money?
So you could buy a pack of hot dogs for that kind of money.
You can't bring a pack of hot dogs. I mean, you could to the movie theater.
If you were a true nigga, you could walk up with a Foreman grill and get busy in the fucking second to last row, just sitting grill.
And it's battery operated. You don't even have to plug it in. It's like, oh, we gonna eat today. Oh, yes, sir, Deadpool. Do your thing. That'd be so fucking wild if someone's just sizzling a steak in row F. Anybody got some A1? Anyone got A1 in here? Anybody?
Somebody comes in with a fucking hot plate and they got a wok on it and just making it fucking Chinese. Who wants some General Chow's? Who wants General Chow's?
I mean, we're probably getting there. I've heard horror stories recently, a bunch of because Deadpool, obviously, at the time of this recording, Deadpool's been out for about a week or something now, and so people are going to sold out movie theaters again. And I'm hearing horror stories about people having barbecue and all kinds of crazy food, like that's not movie theater sanctioned, and just stinking up the place and not giving a fuck.
Listen. I'll just say this: there was a time where I did bring Chinese food. I did black it up.
Fucking nigga. And what movie did you go see?
I don't remember, but I know I was eating
Probably
Chinese.
Day After Tomorrow, those shit. You weren't even high yet.
So, and then the crazy thing is like, but it was a pretty empty movie theater.
Like, Don't matter.
Watching the movie, I was watching the movie that like had been out for a while. I just haven't got a chance to see it. So it's like it was a pretty empty movie theater. But to your point, I can't see myself at a packed theater pulling fucking ribs out of my goddamn back. He's like, oh man, this character arc got me hungry. And you know, ribs is that's a loud food to be eating.
Yeah, it's just smacking. You got sauce everywhere, and like it's tight in movie theaters. It's not like you have all the space in the world. I'll be goddamn if I'm just trying to enjoy a movie and I get some fucking hickory smoked barbecue sauce on my face.
Mm-hmm. Then that person have to get themselves a toothpick and sitting there picking it out. Yeah, but, oh god, what's happening?
Yep.
You doing anything that talk about this film?
I mean, it falls apart at the end. It gets very messy. Like in some ways, this movie is kind of straightforward, but I think it does it gets convoluted very quickly. By the time we get to the second act, it's like it's juggling a bunch of different balls in the air. I was under the pressure for some reason, like the way that Clarence talks about their mom, he and Thomas's mom, you would think that she's dead, but then I'm like, no, isn't that actress playing his mom?
Yeah.
So I'm like, why is he talking like the mom is gone? The mom is right there.
Yeah.
It felt very odd, like some of the ways that characters were discussed, some of the character actions. Like Verinia, she goes to Clarice's mom as like he's a leader who thinks that he's like, a follower. He's a giant, and he thinks of himself as a worm or some shit. And I'm like, well, why don't you just tell him that he's clearly pining after you? He would do anything for you. Just tell him that you believe in him. This movie's wrapped up pretty quickly.
Like that.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, you could easily have this conversation with Clarence and conflict's kind of good. Like, you both could work together to figure out how he gets rid of the debt for your brother. Or you can just tell your brother, I'm in love with this dude. Please give him another shot.
Hey, please don't kill the dude that I love. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Instead, she had to watch him get fucking beat to death at the end. Also, the whole thing with Mary Magdalene getting stoned and Elijah going to protect her, and then Jesus stops the rocks and all these things. And for me, I'm like,
I think cast the first stone, that whole thing, yeah.
Yes. And for me, I don't think like eye for an eye or anything like that is a good resolution either. But I do think people need to be held accountable for their heinous actions and how they treat other people, because I get fear is a huge motivator for doing ungodly, unspeakable things that you wouldn't think you would be capable of doing, right? But if you were proven wrong, there needs to be consequences. I think. I don't know. That's just maybe that's like old Punisher Brandon over here. I don't know.
You talk about like biblical era stuff.
I know they barely knew which way was up.
Yeah, no, but that's how they handled shit. Back
oh yeah, I mean,
like, oh, you fucked up. Bring out the rocks. So,
and that's back when people maybe had like as a community probable cause. This is you know what we should do? We should do that fucking movie. Was it The Crucible? Lluvia, add it to the list because
a long time ago.
Yeah, but I haven't seen it in a long time. But like that's a time where people deliberately were using miseducation of people to get, like, let's say old girl over here denied you. She's a witch.
Yep.
Kill her. She's like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
same time, they do that to people today.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm sure there's people in different countries that wish that they could fucking kill us because they're like, these are devils, and I'm pretty
I
sure Justin's a Batman. Like it's a whole thing.
so like I did like a stage. I did a reading, for some film or something or other, and there it was like a film festival that was going on, and we did a reading, there, and then like I hung around, just networking and things like that, and then right after I'm about to leave, and then like there's this women's like talk and like summit comes in, and it's basically about an Indian woman, gorgeous woman who was with a guy, and some dude was basically trying to get with her, and she turned him down nicely, whatever, and then he threw fucking acid in her face, and she showed up, so she was there, and obviously the effects of the acid, you could see him. And I remember standing there and so the whole story was about, it's like, in India, we pray to goddesses and things like that, yet we treat our women like, very nothing close to. And I was like, bro, I've never wanted to leave somewhere, and not because I just like, hey, I just want to get out, because it was just real. It was really hard to sit there and listen to stuff, but also being like one of the only men, one of the few men in the room. I'm just like, I feel like everybody it just wants to murder me right now. Really powerful, but also at the same time, it's like with all the bullshit that happens here. Sometimes you have to look at it. It's like maybe I'm just glad that I'm where I'm at, and I'm at, because on the other end, other people are dealing with other kinds of bullshit. So whatever bullshit we have is another level of bullshit that you don't want to deal with, and vice versa. So it's like, bro, like, and that shit that people used to do back in the day, and it's still happening all over the world. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's tough. We live in a fucking fucked up little rock spinning in space. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, the world's a wild place, man, and that's why it is cool to, like, to know that especially in this country people are able to express themselves in art
Hopefully.
without persecution. And well, yeah, hopefully we'll see how things pan out the next few months. um but at the same time, it's also, life's already hard enough, and I think that that's why this movie, maybe if I had saw it at a different time in the year, or like when I was in a different headspace, I would have enjoyed it more. Like I said, I did definitely enjoy the first hour, which was very much like a quirky period piece comedy that has some religious themes and stuff like that. Um, because I think one of the reasons why I saw not Daredevil, but Deadpool and Wolverine twice already is because I need an escape. I need something that's really fun and like just makes you forget how terrible and fucked up the world is sometimes. It's so it's just tough to watch a movie where you're like watching people and also watching like Black history in some ways get erased, or like this creator's interpretation of Black erasure and history and contributions, and how we lived, and like just. But it sucks because this movie, you very rarely see us represented in these kind of movies, and it doesn't stick the landing. So then people don't see it, right? This had a budget of what, 40 million? 40 million. It made 6.2 million at the box office, and barely hearing anyone talk about it on social media. Um, and then even, I'm going to read some Patriot thoughts, and they had mixed reactions to it. So, we'll make with that. But any final thoughts about Book of Clarence before we kind of break down our rating systems and stuff?
I don't know, man. Like, it's just one of those films where, like, so I actually tried to watch this a few, like maybe 2 or 3 months ago,
Okay.
and I started watching it, and I was just like, what is going on here?
Mm.
Be totally honest, I was just kind of like this just doesn't. So I was actually looking forward, so I didn't finish it. So actually I was looking forward to watching it. I'm just like, you know what, where you're at, and where you're at, what's going on, that does play a factor, whether a movie is, what's a movie doing to you at that time. So like, this watching this last night, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give it a second chance and really give it a watch. And like, much like you, that first hour is kind of like, okay, all right, we're on to something, maybe I was wrong. And then you know it started to hit and it started going off the rails. I'm just like, it's exactly what I thought it was.
Mm.
Exactly. I thought it was, and it's and it's hard because obviously I support LaKeith Stanfield. Like I think he's a phenomenal actor, and some of the other people that are in this film. But like, for a lot of this, it was like this just isn't it. And then I was also thrown off about the whole fucking we in biblical times. It was like, oh yeah, we've been selling weed since the beginning, since the year of the flood. I was like, nigga, why?
I mean, I think, obviously black people probably had their vices back in the day, especially endearing with,
No,
huh?
Everybody did.
I know,
Everybody.
but they probably went with weed versus like liquor. You know what I mean?
Well, no. Well, yes.
If people are gonna have vices, why not show weed, which is like, everyone chills out and it's like very like, passive versus alcohol that could bring out some aggression. Especially that dark liquor. Black folks with demons inside. Dark liquor ain't a good mix. I know you've been to Crenshaw Sundays. I know you know what I'm talking about.
I mean, but you're also talking about, again, these are very much biblical times. So
they had a Crenshaw Sunday back.
You know what? We're staying away from this now. You're just being at this point. So, guys, you know how we do this. We rate movies bags of popcorn, small, medium, large, and the XL 40 exceptional. If a film doesn't deserve any warm, buttery, or fresh popcorn.
Were you about to say sweet?
No, warm.
Oh, that usually like and then you corrected yourself. I think you're about to say sweet popcorn. You nasty nigga. You like that kettle corn shit, don't you?
Listen, if I want some goddamn
you're like a white freckle kid at the Mets gala or the Mets stadium, not the gala.
Cracker Jack box. I'm gonna get myself a Cracker Jack box.
I fucking hate those Cracker Jack box. You know what it was? Because I always went to games. Either be with my mama or with some other white folks. Not my mom's not white, but I would either go with my mom or I would go with a bunch of white folks, probably from Boy Scouts or some shit. And I always saw the dads and their sons with them Cracker Jack boxes. I'd be like, fuck them. Anyways, rating system.
If movie doesn't deserve, we throw it into the stale popcorn pile. We pop piles and piles.
I'm not bitter.
No, not at all. So, guys, we sat down and watched the Book of Clarence, the 2023 biblical drama comedy, whatever this was, starring LaKeith Stanfield, Omar Sy, RJ Kyler, Michael Ward, Alfre Woodard, who's just like, I can't believe she's old. Tiana Taylor, Caleb McLaughlin. What say you, Brandon?
Oh man, yeah. This gets a small. It's not getting a stale popcorn, but again, it's getting a small that's very, very low on the small. Like I could barely put my hand in this bag. Pacing not great, inconsistent tone, but a really solid performance for LaKeith Stanfield. He gave it everything he had. The first act I greatly enjoyed. I laughed a lot. I love seeing these black actors getting something to do, and then it just kind of falls apart towards the end of the second act and doesn't really recover, despite having a really, really powerful and impactful scene where Clarence walks on the water. That I wish the whole movie could have been like that if they wanted to go the dramatic route. But I do think even with the dramedy aspects, it did pay. Like there was some good payoff there, but it was surrounded by muddiness that kind of diluted it. And that's frustrating. That's really frustrating. Justin, what's your rating?
Yeah, I'm gonna give this pile of stale popcorn. Just one. It just didn't speak to me at all. And like and some of obviously the things I spoke about earlier, I think it just kind of pulled me out of the film. And while yes, I did enjoy bits of the first hour of this film, this is a 2 hour plus film, and when it falls off, for me it fell off pretty hard, and there were points where it was kind of teetering anyhow. So this is definitely something that I wouldn't watch again. And if someone asked me, "Hey, Book of Clarence, should I check it out?" I'm like, you could probably skip it.
That's fair. That's fair. We did get some Patriot thoughts. And folks, remember when you sign up for Patreon at patreon.com/media popcorn, you're guaranteed to have your thoughts and reviews of the film we're going to be talking about right on that episode. So first up was Ali, who wrote, great watch. I really appreciate the message of this movie. LaKeith did an amazing job. XO popcorn for me. All right, well, to each his own. Victor Gordon wrote, started off good, felt the story and funny moments that made a comedy, then boom, Passion of the Christ moment, LOL. Still thought it was good, though. Okay, so barely positive from our Patriots. Not as mixed as I thought it was when I first glanced at it, but nonetheless, this isn't the harder they fall. Not at all. Even though apparently RJ Seiler's character in the book of The Harder They Fall mentions the Book of Clarence in that movie.
Does he?
So yeah. So it's interesting. Like it's like this weird Tarantino connected kind of universe thing he's trying to do, or some shit. But yeah, folks, that's our review on the Book of Clarence. Hope you all enjoyed it. You can check it out on Netflix and then let us know your thoughts on the movie. Send us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/media popcorn, or you can hit us up on social medias platforms at Media MP Podcast. Instagram and Twitter are the ones that we're most active on, but we are on TikTok. And you can follow me at Frodo_Blackens. All my shows and stuff like that are on FrodoBlackens.com. And Justin, how can people follow you as well as support the show financially if they choose to do so?
Guys, you can follow me at J Brown Did It on all the social media platforms. But if you want to follow this show, you want to make this show even better than it's ever been in this lifetime, which is the only lifetime we know, patreon.com/medium popcorn. We have $2, $5, $10, and $15 packages. Our entire backlog is on Patreon. We have a bunch of bonus episodes, bonus shows. Patreon's where you need to be. Again, that's patreon.com/medium popcorn.
There you go, folks. Oh boy, let peace be beyond you and be with you and all over you. Just take care of yourselves out there.
Peace in your booty holes, y'all. Peace in your booty holes. Peace.